as you do when you first meet people, like, is this person an idiot check in
Yes.
real life?
Yeah, right.
And for me, you pass that bar really quickly.
The barriers to entry are just becoming more accessible for people. So if I ask a question of a set of data, I don't need to write a SQL statement anymore. I can say, please show me the rent roll for this property for this time frame. Enter.
It's going to take them 2 years longer to reach principal, to reach a sort of decision-making status, because they're stuck in the weeds of updating waterfalls at 4 o'clock in the morning. Nobody really wants to do that.
Well, some do. And no, I'm not here to take your job, but I'm here to put more hours in your day to do what I would consider value add work.
People who use AI native tools before they've learned something,
Yes.
a subject area in depth,
Yep.
essentially become intellectually lazy.
Go back to the early 2000s, right? Don't always believe what you see on the internet. It's the same thing. Don't always believe what AI is going to generate for you. One of my personal acid tests are, would I trust this firm with my child? And if the answer is no, we move on. If we're not holding up our end of the bargain, you can fire me. People look and go, did I just hear you correctly? Yes.
You know I do it.
I know.
Don't test me.
Mike Tyson said it best, right? Everybody's got a plan until you get hit in the face. That's what we're going to see with AI. Don't be afraid to try. Come up with something and try it.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Here we are on Bricks, Bites, and Bold Moves, the
Lovely.
future of real estate.
Lovely.
I'm Dr. Kate Jarvis, the CEO of Fifth Dimension, and I'm here today with you, the lovely, the wonderful Colin Joynt, Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer at BXP. Thank you so much for joining.
Kate, good to see you. I think the last time we did this was CRETech.
Gosh,
Back
yeah.
in kind of October, November of 25. We were joined by a couple of other colleagues who are in, slightly different journeys and paths with regard to AI. So just really looking forward to the conversation. And again, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think we were just chatting before we started rolling here. It was 18 months ago, 15 months ago at a prior CRETech that I think maybe you walked up to me at our stand.
Yeah, I think how this unfolded was saw one of your posts, or you may have done an outreach or something, and I just remember saying, "Oh, this looks interesting." At the time, did a little bit of very rudimentary Google searching, and then did ChatGPT searching. Full transparency on you and your background. I'm like, "Oh, this is someone I should probably talk to." You're right. Walked up, got a few minutes on your calendar at Jarvis, and the rest, as they say, is history. And here we are.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both did a bit of a, as you do when you first meet people, like, is this person an idiot check in real life?
Yeah, right.
And for me, you passed that bar really quickly. So
that's clearly it's a low bar, but I thank you very much for that. And but no, you're right. It was one of those, you walk away from certain conversations in your life with either friends or family or potential business partners, and you're like, ooh, this is interesting. And I remember talking about it with others. Over the course of the next month or so, I think before we really formally got, time on the calendar, and it was like, yeah, I think they're onto something here. So hopefully I'm prophetic.
Yeah, I mean, you do seem to have a bit of a crystal ball that other people in the industry are trying to catch up with. I think you're known as a bit of an innovator, a bit ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Perhaps ... for better and for worse in certain times. But I think things have been really going well over the past year or so. So talk to me about how you've been thinking, high level. What's your strategy? What have you been looking to accomplish with all this AI business?
So I think before we go down that road, I think, it's one of these where you've got to kind of give credit where credit is due. And so we talk a lot in this space about data and how are we going to have really good quality data in order to really begin to leverage AI and these capabilities. And I said, so, the team at BXP has done a really good job of structuring data so it's clean. So it's a little bit easier for us. We're not really starting from scratch of, I got to get my data clean. So that's been helpful, but it's really been more of an exploration. We've talked about this in the past where I set up a working group and we said, hey, let's try it. And it failed epically, but we failed quickly and we learned from it and then we moved on. And now we're getting to the point where the number of ideas that are being populated or proposed inside the organization are incredible. Like we targeted a certain business group with you guys, right? So full transparency, we are clients. We're working with our accounting team, but other groups are now coming to me, and it's frenetic. I was literally in our office today, and our SVP of construction in New York came up to me and said, "Hey, Colin, here's what I'm thinking. Can you help me?" And I'd want to use AI, full stop.
I love that. I mean, I do often think that your job is probably a lot like mine, just internal to BXP, right? Mm-hmm. You hear someone walks up to you and they say, "Hey, I have this wild idea. Is this a problem that you think, software can solve, that AI can solve, that data science can solve? What, given your experience, what do I do here?"
Yeah. And it's interesting because we're traditionally, I don't want to say painted, but we're traditionally viewed as very conservative. We're not open to change. We're very, very, I want to say methodical. Well, we are all of that, but we're also really beginning to look at pushing the envelope. And I think that's the exciting part about my role is I have the ability to think creatively and really think of what can we do? So is it a task acceleration? Is it a greater insight quickly into a problem? Is it identifying a potential problem before it occurs so we can course correct? Is it something as literally as rudimentary as saying, I want to do cost planning for a tenant improvement or a capital expenditure, and what do I need to look for? Hey, it's incredible. And the tools now are so much better than they were even a year ago that it makes so much more sense now.
Yeah, I mean, let's double click on that, because what were you thinking 18 months ago strategically, right? You talked a bit about experimentation. These things, as you say, through test, learn, and adapt, evolve so quickly.
Yeah. So really, I was looking at document comparison. And I thought if I can shorten the cycle to do document comparison, and that can take a variety of forms. Is it a cleaning contract with the property management team? Is it a lease negotiation with the legal department? Is it an IT contract? Let's just shorten the cycle so I can focus in on 2 or 3 clauses and go from there. That was boring, quite frankly. And so the more that I saw these tools starting to expand, and even with my own research and some of my own life experiences, I started to look at how can I bring this into the office. So one of the things I did was, so my daughter was getting ready to go to college, and I used ChatGPT 1.0, I think it was, or maybe 1.5, I don't even remember. And I built this goofy little calculator to figure out how much it would cost to send her to school. Put in some prompts, university or college, what do you want to study? Then, grants, all those things. Dumped it into Excel and built a pivot table. Well, take that and put it onto a construction job with a better set of tools today. The power is incredible.
Yeah, that's a great example. I can see why you drank the Kool-Aid after that experience.
Yeah, because when your senior in high school is saying, "Dad, I want to go to this school and that school," and you start to put the math together and you show them, here's what it's going to cost. Now all of a sudden it's tangible. So I thought, why can't we do that for additional areas of real estate? Let's try it. Let's see what happens. And away we go. And here we are.
And what were you inspired by or turned off by, opposite side of the coin, that was happening in terms of digital transformation at that time? There's been many waves of this, as we both know, right?
Yep.
We've done a kind of different version of business intelligence era. Now I think AI and what we're currently looking at is going to unlock some of that actual intelligence by inference, deliver on a promise from 20 years ago, which is exciting. But yeah, how's that journey been for you?
Because it's plain. I think the barriers to entry are just becoming more and more accessible for people. So you think of, how do you prompt? What's a prompt? Prompt is a question. So if I ask a question of a set of data, I don't need to write a SQL statement anymore. I don't need to say, start from this or if then else. I can say, please show me the rent roll for this property for this time frame. Enter. And AI inherently knows how to build that with greater speed, greater efficiency than I can. And it opens it up to now, what can I do next with that data around, okay, show me the trend. Why do we think this is? Are there external factors? So I'm not just writing SQL statements anymore. I can actually bring in outside third-party pieces of data from other areas of my business. I could bring in, for example, weather trending that's historical. I could look at, future census information around population growth. I can look at corporate earnings. And it goes on and on and on, all by just typing in questions. It's fascinating. Just fascinating. And yes, you can tell I geek out on this stuff. It's so exciting.
Yeah. We certainly share an optimism, I think, for the future of the technology and its power to transform businesses.
Yeah.
Not everyone shares that optimism. And,
that's true.
I think the fact that it works in natural language is a really important part of delivering on the promise of the technology itself, because you no longer have to have some specialized skill set. And you don't have to write SQL, but you also don't need to necessarily be in the weeds of the work itself.
I think that's a good way to describe it.
You could be, look, these days I'm a CEO, which is its own kind of bag of worms, can of worms, whatever you want to call it, mixing metaphors here. And I sometimes might just want a recut of a certain kind of data because I don't have the view on my P&L I want. Yes. And I want to think about, I want to put more resource here, less resource there, put it in a PowerPoint. Yeah. And I can do that without having to retrain myself on a new technology.
Do you know a good platform, by the way? I'm in the market.
Yeah. One or two. Okay. Specifically one.
Yep.
And what I'm seeing that I get really excited about is that ability to use natural language, that simplification of really complex processes and complex work that allows people in very different roles and kind of very different positions of experience with technology finally to get the insights that they're looking for quickly.
Yeah.
But people are still people.
Yes, we are.
And how do we drive change? Because this is a question I personally get asked the most.
Yes.
Like, I believe what you're saying, Dr. Kate, but pitch that to my CFO, for example.
Yeah.
Because this person isn't going to understand what you're saying or necessarily believe in the potential ROI.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you have to say to that?
So here's the simple answer is it depends. And it depends on who you're speaking with. And I think that you have to be able to tailor your message in such a way that it resonates or makes sense to the person you're speaking with. So I look at the new, like the interns that we hire from some well-known colleges and schools in Boston. They're being taught AI as freshmen. So these are juniors. So they've got 3 years of AI experience. To them, it's no longer technology, right? It's like having, when I was growing up, oh, good Lord, my dad worked for IBM and I have a PC in my house. This is technology. This is cool. They've grown up with it. It's no different for them. And so how do I teach them to say, hey, look, this is really powerful, but here's what you can't put in there. And if you are going to put it in there, here's the potential repercussions. So let's just think twice. And if you're not sure, ask. Then you just, migrate it around. No, I'm not here to take your job. But I'm here to put more hours in your day to do what I would consider value add work. Maybe it's more analysis. Maybe it's more training. Maybe it's you want to spend more time managing your team. Maybe it's, more time getting on a property tour. Like, how can I accelerate your knowledge and your growth to add value to BXP? So it's not a play on AI is going to take your job, because we've all heard that. I'm also not in a type of organization or business where that's really practical right now. Like I can see it in some other businesses, but not ours. And so I'm using it more as an education opportunity. Let's expand your horizons. What else do you want to do? What is it you can't do today that if I enabled you with this tool set to free up time that will allow you to do it? And people resonate. They're like, oh, hadn't thought of it that way.
What if I 10x'd your potential to do impactful work? What if you didn't have to do this garbage and instead...
Right. Or what if you are today, let's say you're a property accountant today, but you want to become a property manager because that's what you want to do. If I can free up 2-3 hours a week for you to go shadow a property manager, how does that help you in your career? How does that help me retain you as a person inside of BXP? So that if we have a retirement or we have a new building or we have a transfer, you can be considered for that role. Like it is a resource play, but it's a different kind of play. I'd rather have more skills, more tool sets for our team so that we can have them play different roles in the organization as we need it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Some of the really large scale organizations we work with, of course, are thinking through their talent acquisition strategy, right? And they onboard 50 analysts at a time in different locations.
Yep.
And they're starting to turn around and say to us, we've lost analysts because we weren't AI forward enough.
Right.
Because they have options today, right? Why would they go work for another business where essentially, let's say they really intend on being investment managers, it's going to take them 2 years longer to reach principal, to reach a sort of decision-making status, because they're stuck in the weeds of updating waterfalls at 4 o'clock in the morning. Nobody really wants to do that.
Well, some do, and but in all seriousness, you need people who want to do that as well.
Sure.
Right. So it's that blend. So it's also, how do you build teams, right? And I view at some level this is a good team building activity because you can collaborate, right? How do you write a prompt? The way that you look at a problem versus the way I do. Well, we want to get to the same result, but if your way is better, why don't I take it? And I can do that through prompting. Like I think it's another one of these where we have to get creative. And I think the most successful platforms that are going to be adopted, I mean platform either by business process, by technology, by group, by whatever, are going to be the ones who can get creative and have those conversations and push it and say, let's try this. Because you can fail quickly now and recover.
If you learn the right things from it.
Yeah.
I mean, on that note, so I'm sure you're aware of some of the research that has come out basically saying people who use AI native tools before they've learned something, a subject area in depth, essentially become intellectually lazy. Now, I think that's about a poor use of the tool. It's not, let's say ChatGPT is what's actually being employed here. ChatGPT doesn't tell you why it thinks what it thinks, right? Which is something we took a very strong position on from the outset. It should be fully auditable. If you're thinking of it in kind of coding terms, you want to stack trace, you want to think through together, then it should be teaching you something perhaps that you wouldn't think about or that you hadn't noticed. But is that something that you worry about at all or think about?
Always. Like you have to. And it's go back to the early 2000s, right? Don't always believe what you see on the internet. It's the same thing. Don't always believe what AI is going to generate for you. I mean, there have been a lot of other examples where, you see it in mainstream media today where there's a lot of AI generated, what do they call it now? AI slop, right? And so you can't just rely on the AI. You have to have that underlying foundation. And I think what we will have to do as leaders is say, you know what? It's almost like, the crawl, walk, run approach. You're going to spend some time and unfortunately you're going to have to do some of these manual tasks manually. Because if you're right out of school, you don't have, again, as you've said, that underlying foundational knowledge of how to read a balance sheet or how to build a GL entry, for example, if you're an accountant, or how to draft a memo if you're a lawyer. Like, you need to learn these skills. And I think that if you take the time to learn some of these underlying skills first and then use AI to augment, that's where I think you're going to see the greatest levels of success.
Yeah, I think you're right at the foundational level. So I hate to reference philosophers I was a big fan of in university, but I'm going to do it anyway.
It's your podcast. Go for it.
Someone like Bourdieu, right, would say that society is always changing.
Yeah.
Human taste is about distinction.
Yes.
And if you look on the internet today, you scroll LinkedIn, everything, the conversation, the discourse is, if you use too many M dashes, you wrote your post with Claude, I can tell, get in the bin.
Right.
And then the internet moves on, right? Because it recognizes that whatever slop is today, it doesn't matter whether it's AI generated, human generated, or both. Then we say, okay, what does good look like?
Right.
And I feel like we're in the era of defining what does good look like. If we put AI at the center, we admit it's here to stay, then that's our job to define. So
again, I go back to an old analogy, and this was what one of my old, he was really more of a mentor than a boss, early in my career. And, he was always trying to define technology. What is technology? And how do you define it? Because each generation has a different definition of what technology means, right? And so, like for my parents, a color TV and a cordless phone. That's technological advancement. As I said, a PC in my house, technological advancement. For my daughter, what is it? She's got AI, she's got an iPhone, she's got an iPad. Don't know. So what really defines technology? Is AI technology for a certain generation? Yes. For others, no. And now if it's a no, like when you were learning how to use a cordless phone, you'd realize you still dialed the 10 digits, but you could walk around and your call quality didn't change. With AI,
I do remember that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that quite a bit.
Yes, I'm sure. But again, as AI evolves, it's going to be the same thing. A lot of this slop is going to get whittled out because the people who are contributing to it, who don't view it as scary, they view it as just kind of normal, they're going to start to normalize it. And it's going to, I think, just naturally evolve. I think to even go more tangential and maybe even more futuristic, there's going to be consolidation. Right? And so when you start to look at consolidation, what's going to win? Quality. I'm a firm believer. Quality will win, will rule the day.
I mean, you are in real estate, so I think there's a good argument that you can see that happening, right? Yeah. The investment thesis stands.
Yes, it does. It does. And it's an interesting thesis. I mean, if you look at BXP, historically, we're a buy and hold. Mm-hmm. So we have bought high quality assets that we've held for extended periods of time. Served us pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel I want to give our audience here a bit of a dose of a downer because we are talking so positively about how everything is playing out today and in the future with AI. So, what problems are you seeing? What are people having difficulties with when they are presented with a dose of what the future is going to look like?
Yeah. So, like everything else, there's skepticism. So I'm probably a little bit more on the optimist side. But the skepticism is still, as you've talked about, and a lot of analysts have talked about, it's what's going to happen to my job, right? We're starting to see a lot of, hey, what's going to happen to my kid coming out of school? Mm-hmm. What's that employment market going to look like? I think the other thing too, there's always the phrase, you're worried about the Terminator, right? So everybody who's seen the Terminator movie is like, what's that going to look like? I literally think it's tough to call what some of these negatives are going to be, but I think the fact that people are actually talking about the negatives early is different. I think it's a lot different when I've seen other, technology trends. So like when the internet came out, nobody was talking about all the bad stuff on the internet. It was like, oh goodness, you've got all this access to all of these, facts and data points. Well, they weren't talking about all the bad stuff that was going on, like, the deep dark web and some of the areas that are really untoward and such. Nobody's talking about it. This time, I think we've learned from it. I think we are talking about it, having these open, tough conversations, but now we've got to figure out what's it look like. Like, do we need to legislate it? Do we need it to be legislated at a company level, at a government level, at an international level? I don't have the answers for that yet, but we do need to do something. You're right. It's got a lot of power. And like, who was it who said it? Power corrupts absolutely, or absolute power corrupts. It's a concern. So there's the rosy side, but then there's also the pragmatic side of it, which is it's going to be a game changer. So.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me because sometimes I do sit back and say, look, I'm a Silicon Valley technology nerd. Yeah. And I grew up essentially watching prior iterations of B2B SaaS. You would get really excited about the potential for something new, like the BI platforms that were pushed into every business and somewhat delivered and somewhat didn't. And then you had the hype around, cool, you'll be able to have see around every corner. You'll never make an investment decision mistake again. All this kind of hype that's out there that you obviously see around AI.
Oh, yeah.
And then basically hundreds of thousands of businesses getting enormous amount of funding day on day that are falling into that chasm between the expectation and the reality of the value they can deliver. Now, I hope that my business isn't like that. And we've been able to avoid that ill fate based on my technical experience, the wonderful team I have, and many other things. But I'm sure when you were looking at how am I going to do this in my business at BXP, how do I distinguish between the absolute crap that's being sold to me
right.
and something that might be legitimate. And I just think people who are listening to this, that's what they want to know, right? What's an LLM wrapper? What's garbage? Do you do Copilot? Like, what do you do?
Yeah. And so for us, it's fit. We firmly believe that we are going to partner with organizations that we can grow with long term. We've got, I would say there's probably at least half a dozen to a dozen technology platforms in the current stack today that have evolved over time because of the partnership that BXP has put in with said organizations. And I think if you go into it and you're sitting through demos and you're asking the questions and you're watching the body language and you're listening to the responses around how are people going to solve my problem? What do they offer? What's in it for me? What's in it for them? Like, there's a certain amount of art and science to this whole thing.
It's about people.
It turns out. It is. And if you honestly feel that the person sitting across the table from you will be able to have that tough conversation when things go sideways, because they will, that's where you need to invest. And investments take many forms. Like we look at investments in capital. We look at investments in terms of intellectual property. We look at investments in terms of time, reputation. Like you really have to start to put all of those pieces together. And the best advice I can give to the audience, get comfortable. Like get comfortable with the people you're going to do business with, because these aren't one and done deals. Like we are entrusting organizations with a fair amount of our data. That's a risk. It's calculated. It's absolutely a calculated risk. And in my role, that goes into all my decisions. And so it's just getting comfortable. That's the one thing I can say. I get inbounds all the time. I'm asked to sit on different calls. And there are times when I'm 30 seconds in, I'm like, how can I quickly get out of this? But I don't want to be rude, so I listen. But it's at the end of the day, it's all about people.
I think that's a very wise perspective, because of course you're going to see new businesses all the time claiming to be, 2% better, right?
Yeah.
We did this. We're so innovative. We raised $100 million from Index, whatever the reason is, right? To walk into the room with swagger. And they can say, I'm SOC 2 Type 2 certified. I might, but at the end of the day, it has to be about, I assume, trust and integrity.
So it is absolutely based on trust and integrity. And one of my personal acid tests are, would I trust this firm with my child?
Oh, I like that one.
And I know it sounds so absolutely basic and rudimentary, but would I trust somebody with my child? And if the answer is no, we move on.
How much business would I do if I used that as an acid test? That's really interesting.
I reached into different pockets of my own personal life and how I view relationships. I lean on my wife a lot. My wife is a good kind of temperament for me. She'll play a little bit of the pragmatist if I'm getting really rosy and optimistic, but she's also come out of tech, so she gets it. And it's I'll go home at night and be blathering on about something, and she'll be like, well, have you thought about this? And then I'm completely defeated. But it works because she helps to form my thought process and my analytical process behind the scenes. So, it's truly a team approach that I take. And I think I've used this phrase with you in the past, which is, we're going to be partners. We're in this for the long term. And I've said this before, and I've had very shocked looks. I said, but if we're not holding up our end of the bargain, you can fire me. And people look and go, did I just hear you correctly? Yes.
I do it.
I know.
Don't test me.
Don't. Thank goodness that contract is written and signed. But anyway, but the point is, like, you really want to talk about trust, and you really want to talk about, you want to partner with an organization, you can fire me.
Makes a lot of sense. And there's that at, the personal level between two businesses and how to form an agreement. You also mentioned regulation, how slowly that's probably evolving these days in response to how quickly AI itself is evolving. And I remember when we were at Cretech, you said something about, how do you get auditors comfortable with the fact that they're going to be looking at data that's generated by, corrected by, audited by AI. So how is your thinking about that changing?
So it is, it hasn't changed. The thinking is still there. If I'm fortunate enough to be invited back in 6 or 8 months, I'll probably have a better answer for you. But what we've done is we've included them every step of the way. So we actually show them what the inputs are. We show them what the expected outputs are. We show them who is responsible for doing what. We show them the security models. Like we are very, very transparent. And you hear the phrase, human in the loop. I was at I'll say it was a conference. It was more of just a discussion point put on by the state of Massachusetts a few weeks ago. And one of the gentlemen on the panel said, it's now kind of human at the helm. And I thought that's a very interesting approach, because they believe that they still need the humans to be leading some of these AI charges. So we're incorporating some of that in our thought process. So for me, human at the helm in my world with the auditors is we invite them in. We invite them in to see what we're doing, how the tasks are being performed. So it's no longer this nebulous, it's another, IT thing. No, it's real. And here, why don't you try it? Just so that, again, it helps overcome those barriers. And we spin our own stories in our own head. I'm getting probably a little philosophical here about fear, right?
Exactly.
You don't want to have a tough conversation with your boss. So you just put all these thoughts in your head. Oh, they're going to hate me. Oh, I'm going to get fired. Oh, I'm dead. And then it turns out that your boss is like, well, I'm glad you brought that up. Let's work towards a solution. And you get yourself all spun up over nothing. We're trying to avoid that by inviting them in as a participant so that we're lockstep. And there are other elements of our business that are governed by, we've got SOX controls, we've got ITGCs. And so what we're doing is we're saying, we're going to fold some of our AI initiatives into the existing frame. You don't need to build anything new. Let's see where it fits. And if we need to adapt, we adapt. Very much, we want it to be interactive and partnerships. And I think it takes a lot of the friction out and it calms the waters.
If I were to slightly reframe what you're talking about here, I would say that internally to BXP and also externally, you do a lot of education.
I do, yes.
How have you gotten good at that?
You're the one with the doctorate in this conversation.
Yeah, fair enough.
Maybe I'll do a thesis, but that's a good question. I don't know. I really don't have an answer for you on that. I wonder if it's again, another part of my life is I coach hockey. And so maybe I just have this desire to teach. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know where it comes from. I think I say I have a pretty good message and I have a pretty good story, but I don't know where it comes from. I honestly don't. I have no idea. I'm kind of stuttering because I don't know.
Well, you certainly get a lot of practice.
Yes.
So that probably has something to do with it.
It does, but it's also a challenge because not everybody wants to hear it. So yes, you have to say it a lot and you repeat it, but you don't want to sound like a drone and you don't want to sound like a broken record. So I think you just have to understand your audience, understand a room, target messaging and things. I don't know. Maybe it's just one of my, inherent gifts. I don't know.
Well,
I really don't know.
I look forward to your future book.
Yeah.
Education on Technology by Colin Joynt, out in 2030.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, we'll see. I don't know. Well, who knows where it'll go? Who knows?
Well, in order to educate, you also have to stay really on top of how quickly these issues are changing themselves,
that's
right?
True.
So another angle of this question for me is, I assume you have a finite amount of time and you have a family.
I have 24 hours in a day, like most people.
Correct.
I wish I had 28 some days, and some days I'm like, good Lord, 24 is way too many. So
I don't know how much you sleep, but how do you, think about, I woke up today and suddenly there's some new model and I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that. And how it translates into a very cohesive, coherent, sensible narrative about digital transformation.
So I think there's 2 or 3 approaches that I take. So the first is I'm a geek at heart, and so I just want to learn. So there's other podcasts that I listen to. There's other research that I do online just to stay abreast of some of the new models and sort of what they're looking at. That's the first thing. The second thing is I'm a doer. So I tinker on my own. I'm going to start using some of, this vibe coding stuff that's out there because I want to take this little college calculator and I want to put a new face on it and see what it looks like. So I do it myself. And I find that when you can say, well, I tried this and here's how it worked and here's what came out of it. And I changed my model because I didn't like this one. I started using that one. I think you add a little bit of credibility to what you are speaking toward. And then the third thing is that I ask questions. I lean on others. Like I had a meeting today with a gentleman who I'd never met before, but was introduced to me through a friend. And we just started to talk about AI and sort of what he's doing in his role. And he's also a teacher at one of the schools here in New York. And it's just, I just like to learn. And so that's what really helps frame it up. And I think that anybody who's going down this road, it's a new road. We're kind of paving the road as we're driving the car. It's just fascinating. And the speed with which things are changing, you can't keep up. You're right. I don't sleep, but you've got to find a way to stay informed and stay ahead of the curve and just keep going. And not every day is an easy day. There are days when, I curse AI. I curse it because it's like I heard someone, saying, oh, I'm using this to this to this. I'm like, oh gosh, what are you doing? Like, don't put that data in there. Oh Lord. Like, so it's just different. It's different. So.
Well, that's definitely useful. I would like to sleep more, but at the moment I'm just too excited most of the time.
Yeah, there is that.
So that does carry me through, I think, excitement and caffeine, perhaps, as the world keeps moving on. But I think I need to get a bit philosophical now here. Some of the things that you say, I feel like, do you think about your own legacy? Like how do I want to be known? Like what is the thing I'm here to do? Because it's almost as if you're architecting backwards from that. Like I want to get these things done. I want to be this person. How do I get from where I am today?
It's interesting. I try not to think that way because that in my head implies that there's an end date. And right now I don't have an end date. I've got a lot that I still want to accomplish in my personal life and my professional career. But if I could just say, how do I want to be remembered? He was an innovator. Like that to me is really how I'd like to be remembered. Or maybe not even an innovator, but just, he was the kind of person who gave good advice, admitted when he was wrong, helped people grow. I don't know. I haven't thought about it, to be honest with you. It would be interesting, if you asked, others that are important to me in my circle, what they would say. Mm-hmm. I might be afraid to ask them, but I will probably ask them now. And no, it's just, you get one shot at this thing. Let's make it worthwhile.
Well, I guess next time we do this, you have to update me. Yeah. What did people say? Does it align?
Exactly. So,
but I guess,
let me flip the question. I mean, like, what's your legacy?
Oh my goodness. I knew you were going to do this.
No, you didn't.
And I was like, Kate, don't ask the question because now Colin's going to ask you and you have to have an answer.
So just again, to reframe the question, right? So you're a technologist at heart. Mm-hmm. You are leading the charge in a bleeding edge industry, right? You are highly educated from a small school on the West Coast.
Yeah, somewhat regrettably.
Right. Right. So it's like, and I'm sure that, you've got personal goals and aspirations, that you're trying to balance, like, family balance, your growth of your business, you treat them like your kids. I mean, you've got the same kind of things that I'm dealing with. So what's your legacy?
I want to make people better at what they want to be good at, essentially.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't want to change other people.
Yeah.
But I want to be an inspiration that incrementally or perhaps leapfrogs 40 decades of innovation in either case, right?
Right.
I'm not going to go and say, hey, you don't care about technology and now you should care about it. That's not the game that I'm playing.
Yeah.
And I think along the way, what I'm trying to do here, why do I really care about Fifth Dimension, is I care about the equitable distribution of real assets.
Yeah.
So you and I have talked about this a little bit, but I grew up homeless on and off. I haven't had the best upbringing. And I think the best way essentially of driving macro societal change is by every little individual relationship like this.
Yeah.
So if I can empower an organization, every individual who interacts with the tool that I interact with suddenly becomes a little bit smarter, a little bit better at what they do because they have access to more data. They can do more things with those data. I just believe in the multiplicative effect of how that aggregates up.
So it's no different than me looking at a property accountant who wants to become a property manager.
Exactly.
How can I give you more time in your day to chase your dream?
And that could be, I am in fact hoping by 2030, some 10-person outfit of people who didn't go to college beats Blackstone's returns for the first time.
Right.
And I don't want to be swept up in the change that's driving towards that future.
Right.
I want to be determining how that change is coming about.
Yep.
So I hope I'm doing it in a kind way.
Yep.
I hope I'm doing it in a way that, while, as you know, I will call people on their crap, I'm not just
have no idea what you're talking about, Kate. There are certain things that I've seen that firsthand. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Not going to stop on that one.
Hope not.
But as you know, then people will come back to you 5 years later, 10 years later. I might not even remember, right, the weird thing that I said to that person.
Right.
But they say, that made me reevaluate whether or not I should, take that programming class.
Yeah.
Whether or not I should keep lying to myself about the fact I liked my career. Whatever that thing is.
Yeah, right.
Yep. I think that's what's important to me, is to leverage individual relationships, individual business-to-business relationships, people-human relationships to equate up to the change I want to see in the world.
Yeah. That's a lofty goal.
I know. We'll
partner on it. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
No, but I mean, it's again, so why do I coach? Right? So I can still remember I was 14 years old and I remember my coach. And he gave me life lessons that to this day I still carry with me. If I can do that with this next generation of player coming up, that's what I'm here for.
Well, I'm excited for that future.
Yeah.
I am curious. We've dropped a bunch of knowledge bombs here. We've given some life advice. We've talked about how do you actually drive transformation in real assets based on how AI is evolving.
Yep.
What's important to you, if you could leave people with some sort of nugget to take home, what would it be? So
I've used this one before, so I've got to update it because it's 2026. Because as my daughter would say, oh, Dad, you're like, so 2025. It's generous. Yeah. So normally, it's don't be afraid to start and don't be afraid to fail. Right? I think the other thing too, that now is it's really, don't be afraid to try. And that's very different than starting. Like you can start something, like I can go home tonight and I can start to make dinner. And my wife will very quickly go, what are you making? Get out of my way. We're not going to eat until tomorrow. And she'll just come in and she'll just take care of it because she is a far better cook than I am. But the fact that I will try is very different than just starting. So don't be afraid to try. Come up with something and try it. And if you try it and it doesn't work, try again. And if that doesn't work, stop, walk away, clear your head, ask somebody, reach out, but keep trying. That's, I think, what we're seeing a lot of right now inside of BXP as it relates to our journey on AI. Like I'm getting people saying, I want to try this. And they're using that word. And I'm saying to myself, it's resonating. It is resonating. It's no longer, I'm afraid. It's no longer, oh my God, I don't believe it. It's like, I want to try. That to me is a good shift. So, seems silly. Start versus try. It's like we were saying earlier, like how you prompt versus how I prompt. If then versus and or. So start versus try. Just try. See what happens.
Yeah, to me, try implies some sort of greater commitment, right?
Yeah, correct.
Are you just sitting around? Are you messing around?
Yeah, right.
Or are you actually trying to drive at an outcome here?
Yeah.
And what I like about that is commitment leads to harder failures in a sense, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think the special sauce of what you're talking about is getting punched in the face 10 times and still being willing to get back in the ring.
Yeah. So, Mike Tyson said it best, right? Everybody's got a plan until you get hit in the face. And I'm probably paraphrasing, but that's what we're going to see with AI. Like I look back a year ago, it was so different. If I had stopped trying, where would I be today? Where would I be today? You were part of it. You saw it. You heard our failures. You heard from some of the people that you spoke with as part of the process that we went through. Oh, this was terrible. Oh, we couldn't do it. Oh, blah, 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 blah. And now I've got a line. I've got a line of people saying, I need help. I want to try. How can we do this? We have all this data. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. Oh, you said try. Had one today. Seriously.
Yeah.
Just we were standing around the in our office. We've got an island in the kitchen, the break room. And we're just like standing around having a conversation. Oh, but this is so complicated. Oh, but hey, can we try this? Sure. What do you want to do? Let me know. Just try.
I love that. And in just a year, right? I think it's in some sense easier to talk about resilience at a personal level, but you're talking about at a global organizational level, right? How do you develop business level resilience to failure?
Yeah. That's an even better way of putting it. I hadn't put it in that context. And it's not easy. Like we all talk about change sucks. Change is horrible. It's uncomfortable. It's hard. But we're really trying to change the way we're doing certain things at BXP. And that is what is so exciting. I'm so excited about what we're going to come up with next.
Well, me too. And now I think we have the name of your future book, right? Just try. Forget Nike, just do it.
Yeah, right.
Just try.
Just try. Yeah. No, and maybe I'll use, some sort of AI to help me write it. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Well, we'll find out. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
You're welcome.
Pleasure as always.
Oh, good Lord. Kate, so good to see you. We'll have to do this again in, 6 months or 8 months or whatever. At a personal level, wish you and your firm nothing but success. And looking forward to continuing the partnership. So thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.